Hare Krishna. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha. I'm first of all offering millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om, Asto Tarasara Shishimad, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And the same again, millions of times unto the lotus feet of our most beloved, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om, Asto Tarasara Shishimad, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And all our Rupanuga Guru Varya, and all the Vaishnava and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat pranams. So today is the 16th day of our Kartik Parikrama, and everything is progressing very nicely. We are very fortunate now to be settled in the embrace of Giriraj Govardhan, staying comfortably at our Giridhari Gaudiya Mat. So today, everything is glorification of Giriraj. Yesterday and the day before also was the same. We went to Chandra Sarovar, we witnessed the Rasa Stali there, and then we came 2 days ago, we did the south side Parikrama, and we walked all the way around there 3 or 4 hours, hearing so many different pastimes of the different beautiful places of Dan Gati, Dan Nivartan Kund, Anayor, Govinda Kund, Puchari, Surabhi Kund, Jetipur, and then we returned. And yesterday was a very wonderful day. We went to visit Haridev in his magnificent temple, and we saw Manasi Ganga, we saw Manasa Devi, we saw Brahmakund, we saw Chakratirtha, we saw Sanatan Goswami's Bhajan Kutia, and we saw Mukharavinda, the beautiful face of Giriraj. So we're being covered by the auspicious dust of Giriraj Govardhan, and hopefully not too much of it is going down into our chest, which can sometimes happen during the parikramas. But nevertheless, it's very purifying to be here. And today, we're going to directly glorify Giriraj Govardhan, as well as glorify Krishna's very sweet pastime of taking the calves out to calf grazing. Also, it's the same day, just some years later, that he got the blessings from the Brijbasis to take the cows out. So it's Gopastami today, the first day of taking the calves out, or the first day of taking the cows out. The calves out, yes. So we'll glorify those pastimes. And also it's Go Krda, where we decorate one cow. We bring one cow onto the lawn in front of Giridhari Gaudiya Mat, and all the devotees, they nicely feed that cow with grasses and gore, sugary things and grasses also. So that celebration, honoring the cows and decorating the cows with turmeric paste, we decorate the cow. So that Go Krda is there today. And also, of course, today the principal event or activity will be our offering of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of preparations to Giriraj Govardhan himself or herself. We'll go in procession later on this morning before lunch at about 11:30, and all baskets, hundreds, thousands of baskets have been prepared with different offerings and preparations. All night, many devotees have been preparing their offerings to offer to Giriraj this morning. So there are thousands of preparations in baskets, all nicely covered with colored paper, etc. And we'll go in procession through the village, through the township of Giriraj Govardhan, and we'll come around to the northern side on the Parikrama path that goes up towards Radha Kund. And there's a beautiful darshan opportunity there of Giriraj's beautiful shining rocks. So we'll go very close to those rocks and we'll offer all this bhoga this morning. So traditionally we would do this every single year with Srila Gurudev. We first began this ceremony, or when I first did it, we used to stay in Modi Bhavan, and we'd cross over the road and go right up to the side of Giriraj there and offer so many preparations in glorification of our most beloved Giriraj. So that activity will take place today after lunch. It's also a very special day because it's the appearance day of Rasikananda Prabhu. Rasikananda was a direct disciple of Shyamananda Prabhu, and his samadhi is in Remuna. And I don't personally know a lot of information about Rasikananda, but our beloved Srila Bhaktivigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj has provided on each of these days a very nice, sometimes brief description of these personalities. He's insisted that it is an offense if we neglect to glorify these great personalities. So I'm just going to do that now to honor Srila Bhaktivigyan Bharati Maharaj's injunction that without glorification of these personalities, then we are definitely going to be missing out on some special mercy, even it will be an offense. Srila Bharati Maharaj comments, he says, by remembering the Vaishnavas, we reflect on their pure teachings and conduct, and such remembrance eventually leads us to understanding very clearly how to follow the path of pure Vaishnavism. He says, I'm reading now, Rasikananda Dev Goswami accepted Diksha from Sri Shyamananda, who was born in a lower caste. So Srila Bharati Maharaj quotes a verse from Antyalila chapter 4, that anyone who takes to devotional service is exalted, whereas a non-devotee is always condemned and abominable. Therefore, in the discharge of devotional service to the Lord, there is no consideration of the status of one's family. So this was the situation with Rasikananda, that because he was born in a lower caste, he encountered much opposition to his propagation of support to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his mission. And it's described that Srila Bharati Maharaj goes on, he says, Rasikananda Prabhu faced great opposition and was accused of not being bona fide because of having taken shelter of a non-Brahmana. Generally, it was considered that only Brahmanas had the privilege to study the Vedas, and thus only they could deliver the true import contained in them to their disciples. Rasikananda Prabhu swiftly counteracted all these baseless allegations by taking an astute philosophical stance. So then he tells a couple of pastimes about Rasikananda, how one time the Swatas, they conspired to murder him, and they got an intoxicated elephant to charge at him. And it's described, Srila Bharati Maharaj describes that the devotees, they possess great mystic qualities, sometimes incredible supernatural qualities, but they, out of their natural humility and modesty, they don't exhibit them. However, the Lord sometimes creates situations just to manifest the glories of his devotees. Thus, when the mad elephant charged at him, Rasikananda Prabhu had no choice but to exhibit his prowess. By merely chanting a mantra, he immediately subdued that wild elephant and transformed him into a surrendered disciple. Such was his power. And there's another pastime that Srila Bharati Maharaj relates, that Rasikananda was traveling to the Rath Yatra, and he was late, he was delayed. And Srila Bharati Maharaj describes how previously there was a river on Grand Road, so they actually would have 6 carts to carry Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra to the Gundicha. And 3 carts would take them to the river, then they would be carried across the river by boat, and then they would climb into another 3 carts on the other side. So Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra had begun their journey, but they delayed their journey, it's described, for practically 4 or 5 days. And they could not, with any amount of effort, shift the chariots at all. They just couldn't be budged. Until finally Rasikananda came, and as soon as he came in front of Lord Jagannath and simply touched the rope, then immediately the chariots started rolling. So everyone there was immediately appreciative of this very pure, exalted personality of Rasikananda. So Rasikananda, we're remembering his wonderful Vaishnava qualities that he's giving to us to emulate on this day and to pray for his mercy for our successful parikrama and our successful practice of our devotional service. Rasikananda Prabhu Ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. So now we're going to glorify Giriraj Govardhan. We've already glorified Govardhan for the last 2 or 3 days now, but his glories are endless. Giriraj Govardhan, my Gurudev has described, was born or manifested from the heart directly of Sri Radha. He's coming from her heart. He's like Kaya Vyuha, like all the other Sakhis in Radha's gun. They're all her Kaya Vyuha that she's manifesting for the pleasure of her beloved Priyadatma Sri Krishna. So Giriraj Govardhan is also amongst those most exalted personalities who's manifesting directly from the heart of Sri Radha. So how can she not be unlimitedly glorified? So I want to read a little bit of the Sri Govardhan Vasha Pratana Dasakam by Raghunath Das Goswami. So Raghunath Das, we know, he lived in Radha Kund for more than 40 years after he had left Puri, and he came originally with the intention of jumping off Giriraj Govardhan because he could not tolerate the separation from his beloved Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, from Swarup Damodar, from Ramananda Rai, from all these personalities that he'd been with for so many years in Puri. He spent 14 years in Puri and more than 40 years at Radhakund. So he met Rupa and Sanatan when he came to Govardhan, and they convinced him not to give up his body but to utilize his birth in glorification of the Supreme Lord and to write his understandings, his realizations for posterity, for the sadhaks of this world. So he's written this very beautiful dasakam, and I'm going to include in today's mail-out letter a link where you can listen to our dear God sisters, Madhavi and Kadimbi. They sang this astakam very beautifully for Srila Gurudev. So I'm going to read some of the translations just for our purification, to hear the exalted, unlimited potencies of this esteemed personality. Raghunath Das says, "You became like an umbrella on the handle of your Lord's arm, thus obliterating the pride of Devaraj Indra, who had become impudent, intoxicated by his own majesty. You are without comparison the great king of mountains. O Govardhan, please give me residence by your side." We want residence by his side because Giriraj Govardhan is witness to so many hundreds and thousands of leelas. All these leelas were climbing all over his back, all over his body, for the whole duration of Krishna's manifest pastimes in Vrindavan. Krishna with the sakas, with the sakis, with the cows, with the gopis, the gopas, the elder gopas, so many, all the Brijbasis at different occasions were performing very beautiful, joy-filled, sweet pastimes around him and on his back. We described the other day how Govardhan was originally, when he was in the Himalaya and with his father Dronachal, he's described as being 16 miles high at that time. So that's immense. So, of course, by Krishna's time, he had shrunk due to the curse of Pulastya Rishi, as we described the other day, to about 2 miles high. But still, 2 miles high is a comfortable size for a 16-foot youth to enjoy beautiful pastimes. So we're appreciating the height and beauty and breadth and length of Giriraj at this time. It's described that the shadow of Govardhan would come across Mathura. Mathura is about 25-26 miles to the south, and when the sun sinks in the west, it's described that the shadow from Govardhan would cover Mathura at that time. So this is how high Giriraj was. Raghunath Das goes on, the youthful divine couple perform delightful amorous pastimes within each and every one of your caves. Thus, since you facilitate the witnessing of their leelas, O Govardhan, please give me residence by your side. So these beautiful caves with shiny marble-like beds for the gopis to sit on and rest on were so beautifully arranged by Giriraj. Upon your incomparable gem-studded platforms and jeweled thrones, in your broad open spaces, in the shade of your trees, by your waterfalls and streams, upon your crests and in your valleys, your dear Sri Krishna, accompanied by Balaram and all the other sakas, enjoys playful sports. O Govardhan, please give me residence by your side. Upon witnessing the Dhanakeli Leela, the playful tax pastime of the youthful couple, who are a treasure house of rasa, you manifested a fragrant, lustrous, black raised platform in order to facilitate that sweet Leela. Thus you increase the joy of exalted Rasik devotees. O Govardhan, please give me residence by your side. Unprecedented Radha Kund is most dear to Sri Hari, and also your dear friend. Playfully embracing Radha Kund to your neck, you remain hidden there while watching the ever-youthful divine couple enjoy sportive pastimes in that secret place. O Govardhan, please give me residence by your side. It's described that Radha Kund and Shama Kund are like the eyes of Giriraj Govardhan. So this is where Radha and Krishna perform their Madhyana Leela every day, their midday pastimes for 5 hours on the banks of Radha Kund, bathing, playing dice, drinking honey mead, stealing Krishna's flute. So many rasa Leela pastimes Srila Gurudev has described. All these are considered rasa Leela. All these pastimes, it's not simply just the beautiful dancing that the gopis and Krishna performed, but all these other pastimes are also all the Rasa Leela, considered Rasa Leela pastimes. So Raghunath Das goes on, with your fields, ponds, roots, grass, and the shade of your trees, you nourish the cows at every moment. In this way you make your name successful and known throughout the entire 3 worlds. O Govardhan, Go means cow, it means the gopas, it means the gopis, it means the senses also, the go, and Vardhan means to nourish. So this is his exalted name. He's nourishing all of these personalities as well as our senses. Please give me residence by your side. Actually, we find and experience the devotees who stay there for some time and regularly are able to do parikrama, that each time we do the parikrama, there's a tremendous sense of well-being and satisfaction that pervades the hearts of the sadhaks who are able to do those parikramas regularly. There's no question that Giriraj, he nourishes all aspects of our consciousness and infuses us and enthuses us with a spiritual insight, a appreciation of the atmosphere as it was when Krishna was present 5,000 years ago. Srila Rupa Goswami, he's telling us in Upadeshamrita, Tannama Rupa Charitadi Sukirtana Smitya Kramana Rasana Manasityoja Tishtem Braje Tanuragi Janugami Kalam Nayat Akilam Iti Upadesharam. That to remember these pastimes and chant is the essence of all advice. So certainly by taking shelter of Giriraj Govardhan, that becomes far more accessible for the devotees. So today in particular, as we are offering our puja, our Govardhan Puja, we're remembering the gifts and the blessings that Giriraj Govardhan has bestowed munificently today, not just previously, but today for the sadhaks. Today when we perform this activity of offering the annakuta festival and so on, all of us will experience an uplifting of the heart. An uplifting mood will naturally come within all of the devotees. It's always the same every single year when we perform this beautiful annakuta festival. The devotees are filled with great happiness and pleasure to take this opportunity to serve Giriraj Govardhan in this way. Raghunath Das continues, Sri Krishna, the enemy of Aghasura and Bakasura, showed you great honor, turning you into a new home by holding you aloft, thus protecting the Brijbasis from the deep hostility of Indra. Without delay, O Govardhan, please give me residence by your side. So we heard this pastime yesterday of Krishna picking up Govardhan Hill and how opulent it was underneath Govardhan Hill for the comfort of all the Brijbasis and their pleasure at having darshan of Krishna for 7 days continuously. They were able to drink his beauty and experience his pleasing, most beautiful and attractive form, unimpeded by any types of other duties. They had the cows, so some milking had to be done during those 7 days, of course. But nevertheless, all the cows and the calves and all the residents of Braj, they all just drank his darshan fully for 7 continuous days, which appeared to them like 7 blissful hours. Raghunath Das goes on, O Giriraj, your sweet title, Haridasavarya, best of the servants of Sri Hari, issued from the moon-like face of Srimati Radhika. The Vedas have clearly determined you to be the fresh tilak of Braj. So we said at the beginning that, we quoted this, that Giriraj Govardhan is like the tilak of Braj. When we meet any Vaishnava, we can recognize him to be a Vaishnava by the beautiful golden lines decorating his forehead. So immediately we're aware of the identity of that person. So immediately we are aware of the auspiciousness of this land of Braj by acknowledging the beauty and speciality of Giriraj Govardhan, lying right in the midst of Braj. Practically, geographically, he does lie in the midst of Braj. He lies within the forest of Vrindavan, which stretches up from the Jamuna, and to the north is Kamyavan, and then to the south is Bahulavan. So he's crouched in between these two beautiful forests, shining brightly as the decorated tilak of the VRAJA-MANDAL. And Gurudev explains that Sanatana Goswami, he says that Giriraj Govardhan has been called this Haridasavarya by all the gopis. But Raghunath Das is saying no, specifically it's Srimati Radhika who calls him Haridasa Varya. So we see this verse is referring to the beautiful pastime in the Srimad Bhagavatam of the Venu Geet, when the gopis in their purvarag, in their mood of anticipated meeting, or their separation mood, but anticipating meeting. This is the first mood of separation. There's 4 types of separation. There's purvarag, there's man, there's prem vaichitya, and purvas. So this first mood of purvarag is being exhibited through the Venu Geet pastimes. And there, the gopis, they are glorifying, in verse 18, the greatness of Giriraj Govardhan. They say, Hantariya Madhira Bala Haridasavarya Yadarama Krishna Charana Sparsha Pramoda Manam Tanoti Saha Go Kanayat Toyast Yat Panayas Suryavas Kandare Kandare Mulai. So this is the gopis themselves. But Raghunath is saying, no, this is Radha who's declaring that Giriraj Govardhan is that Haridas Avarya. And I described the other day how there are 2 other Haridases, that was Yudhisthira Maharaj and Uddhava, but neither of those 2 gave their entire bodies for the satisfaction of the Lord. So Giriraj is the Haridasa Varya. He's the greatest servant. The Varya, he's the best of all Krishna's servants. So this is how the gopis, and especially Radha, have proclaimed that this is the exalted position of Giriraj himself. So I'm going to read a little bit from Gurudev's Venu Geet commentary on this verse. Gurudev is saying that the Braja Ramanis, overwhelmed in prem, tell about the glory of Giriraj. O Saki, Giriraj Govardhan is Haridasa Varya, the topmost servant of Hari. In the entire universe, there are many kinds of Haridas, but out of all of them, Giriraj Govardhan is indeed the greatest. So, Gurudev describes the different types of Haridas. There's Dhruva, Prahlad, Ambarish, Narad, Vyas, and other jewel-like devotees who have given up everything to serve the Lord, but none of them has turned his varied body into the playground for Bhagavan's pastimes. Only Giriraj has done this. Therefore, he is the topmost Haridas. And Gurudev continues in his commentary on Venu Geet. He says, the Braja Devis, attributing their own deep moods to Giriraj Govardhan, say, Govardhan performs Sri Haridev's Vishramba Seva with his entire body. Therefore, he is Hari's greatest servant, Haridas Varya. And being merciful, he can bestow upon us his own mood. So this is what we are beseeching Giriraj Govardhan to please enter our hearts and give us this same unbounded mood of service that you have. You have the highest type of service attitude. The gopis, because you are also with the gopis have the very highest, because they are directly in bodies that are most pleasing to Krishna. Nevertheless, Haridas Giriraj is supporting all of this, nourishing Vardhana, nourishing all of these pleasing moods that the gopis are able to offer to Brajendranandan Krishna. So, if you have time today, you can look at this beautiful commentary by Srila Gurudev that is glorifying Giriraj Govardhan. By the gopis themselves directly. We are following in the moods of the gopis to please Krishna. So when we hear those prayers in Venu Geet that are directly uttered by the gopis and their moods, Srila Gurudev has said so many times that it is about mood, our consciousness to develop these moods of attraction and honor to all these different personalities of Braj. We are Rupanugas. We are following Srila Rupa Goswami. And I quoted this verse just a few minutes ago, this Tannama Rupa. And in the third line of this verse, Tishtam Braje Tanuragi Janugami, that the following of the residents who possess this inherent rag for Krishna. So this is our focus, this is our intention. Nothing can manifest without clear desire in any form. If it's material accomplishments we want to achieve, that also must be inspired by desire. So similarly, whatever we want to achieve in our spiritual practice is going to be made progress by, or become progressive by our fixed, clear desire. So hearing about these glories of Giriraj will give us a greater respect and honor for this personality, and a greater feeling of just direct affection for this personality. He is overflowing with sweetness and compassion for the struggling sadhaks in this material consciousness, and he will relieve us for sure. Raghunath Das continues, you are absorbed in the mellow of friendship with Sri Sri Radha and Krishna and their intimate associates. It is you alone who bestow happiness upon the men, women, animals, and birds of Braja. Out of your unbounded kindness, accept me, who am full of distress. O Govardhan, please give me residence by your side. So this is like we were just saying. We are distressfully in a distressed condition simply because we haven't appreciated the devotional growth sufficiently within our hearts. When that devotional seed manifests more prominently within our hearts, then we will appreciate more and more the specialities of the Brijbasis, of Giriraj Govardhan, of the whole atmosphere of Vrindavan, of Srila Gurudev, of our whole Guru Vargya. Raghunath Das continues, the causeless, merciful Sri Sachinandan, who is most dear to you, has offered me to you, Raghunath to him. Therefore, although I am deceitful and wicked, do not consider my qualification or lack of. O Govardhan, please give me residence by your side. Then Raghunath Das concludes, one who with careful intent recites these 10 verses about Govardhan, Lord of the dynasty of mountains, which bestow rasa, will at once attain joyful residence by his side and the auspicious jewel of direct service to the divine couple. So this is our prayer today in our worshipping of Giriraj Govardhan, that we pray to be in his proximity, either physically or mentally. Certainly today all of us should be mentally fully in the proximity of Giriraj, and we can appreciate the huge crowds today at Govardhan, honoring him with his Govardhana Puja. It is Govardhana Puja day. And also we're remembering today the speciality of Krishna's cow grazing pastimes, how when he first took the calves out. This is described in Gopal Champu by Jiva Goswami and Ananda Vrindavan Champu by Kavi Kanpur, how Krishna, he very much was determined to take the calves out grazing, and his mother was equally determined that he would not. His mother was insistent that he was far too young to go out and face the possible dangers of the Vrindavan jungle and forest. It was far too dangerous. Already Putana had been killed, Trinavrata had been killed, Shakatasura had been killed. There was no knowing what other demons Kamsa would have sent out into the dark, foreboding forest. Mother Yashoda was totally adamant that Krishna would not go cow grazing. But Nanda Baba had already carried young Krishna on his hip with Baladev out into the pasturing grounds. They'd already had a taste of wandering around with the cows with Nanda Baba and the elder Gopas, just for a brief amount of time. But that had been enough to excite Krishna's heart, that yes, this is what I want to do. Krishna was insisting, but I am from a cowherd dynasty. It is my dharma to take the cows and calves out grazing. And Krishna became so insistent that a meeting was called, an assembly of all the elder Gopas. There was Upananda, Abhinanda, Nanda Baba, of course, was there, Sananda, Nandanandan, all of Nanda's brothers, and then all the other elder Gopas of Braj. They all assembled together, and they had a very serious meeting about whether or not Krishna should be allowed to take the calves or cows out grazing. So after a considerable amount of time and meditating on the youthful age, the young age of Krishna, Krishna's only practically less than 5 years old. He hasn't even reached his 5th year yet. He's still in Balya Leela, this very childlike little beautiful darling boy, the center of the hearts of all the Brijvasis. They had to consider closely whether it was going to be correct, whether it was the safest thing to allow Krishna to go into the forest. And finally they decided, yes, it will be okay. We will send Balaram also. We will send some of the older cowherd boys. There is Vijay and other young sakas who would always act as the protectors of Krishna. They would carry little bows and so on. And finally, they all decided, yes, he will go. So they picked an auspicious day for this event to take place. And it was very carefully planned. And Mother Yashoda was eventually convinced by the elder Gopas that Krishna should, in fact, take the calves out grazing, that this was Krishna's dharma as a young boy in a cowherd village. So Mother Yashoda, she agreed finally, reluctantly she agreed to that arrangement. So, but then she ordered shoes and an umbrella for Krishna. And Krishna rebuked her, saying, well, if I have shoes and an umbrella, that means all of the thousands of calves that I'm taking, they also have to have shoes and umbrella. I am not going to be separated from my beautiful calves that I am so friendly with by wearing shoes and an umbrella. And finally, Mother Yashoda again was defeated in that motherly mood of trying to protect her Lala. But then the day dawned on this very day, today, in the month of either October or November. Today our Kartik is late, so generally it's in October. So around this time, the autumn season, then Krishna was given the permission to take the calves. So then it's described very beautifully by Jiva Goswami how all the calves were assembled, and all of Krishna's hundreds and thousands of young sakas, all his age practically, some a little bit older but mostly his age, and some a little bit younger, all assembled together, very excited on this particular day that they would be cutting loose from the village, from the parental affectionate bounds of their parents and all the older people. They would be able to run freely into the forest and play with the calves. They were immensely excited about this prospect. But it took them practically the whole day to leave the village, because every house they passed, the elder Gopa and mother would come out and offer arti to Krishna and all the sakas. As we see in so many processions in India, they come out and they offer the puja to the Thakurji that is being carried in procession. So similarly, when Krishna was making his first departure, they were all coming out with lamps and putting auspicious garlands on Krishna and blessing Krishna with all auspiciousness, blessing all his limbs with mantras, etc. So it took a long time for Krishna to finally disentangle himself from the whole village of Braj. The village of Braj could hardly bear that their darling Krishna was going to go without them into the forest. But finally Krishna, he disentangles himself and he goes to the forest. There are, of course, some elder Gopas who are quietly following just to ensure that everything will be secure. And almost as soon as they come into the forest, it's prasadam time, it's lunchtime. And hundreds of servants from Nanda Bhavan, they come with all types of preparations, and they make all the boys sit in lines, and then they feed them all the preparations. So practically they haven't even had time to really relish the freedom of being in the forest, and already they're being put in lines and being fed prasadam. Anyway, Krishna, he endures all this, and beautiful sweets and so on are brought to them. And then when the prasadam is over, the servants tell them with instructions from Nanda Baba and Yashoda that very soon they have to return back to the village. It's almost 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon by this time, and they'll have to come back very soon. So they've hardly had any time to really cut loose and play. So this is the first day of Gopastami, when the celebration of Krishna taking the calves, the young calves, out grazing in the fields. And of course, these pastimes, they develop radically over the next few years. And whenever Krishna kills a demon, like Vatsasura, he commands his sakas not to tell mother and father, otherwise they'll become afraid that the forest is too dangerous. So then they return to the forest. But this is Gopastami. So as I said previously, there's Gopastami, celebrating when Krishna takes the calves out, and there's Gopastami when Krishna takes the cows out. So both of these very auspicious ceremonies are remembered today and glorified. So this is Gopastami. So now we're going to perform our annakuta festival. And this is the festival which I described initially, where we'll carry all the preparations out to Giriraj himself, and we'll have kirtan all the way out. And Gurudev would become so animated when this festival was going on. He loved this festival so much. Gurudev was so much a Brijabasi. He even performed this festival extensively, in particular in Badger in America. He did exactly the same thing. He made us all cook hundreds and hundreds of preparations all night, and all these preparations were placed on the devotees' heads, and we'd walk from the temple place in Badger, and we'd walk to where Gurudev had blessed one hillock, one mound of stones, as being a representative of Giriraj. And the young girls had decorated all the inside of that little kunj, which circumambulated those rocks, with beautiful little swings and ornaments representing Krishna's pastimes. So the devotees would bring all their preparations on their heads. And today, every year, at the Bhaja festival, we perform that beautiful annakuta festival, celebrating and glorifying Giriraj Govardhan. And then we all circumambulate there. But we don't circumambulate in Govardhan itself, carrying these foodstuffs. We walk perhaps a kilometer or a kilometer and a half through the dense crowds that are there at Govardhan, filled with music and dancing and sweetness on this particular day. The whole atmosphere is surcharged with festivity, glorifying Giriraj Govardhan. Everything is glorifying Giriraj Govardhan. So we carry these preparations on our heads, and we go and place them very carefully at the lotus feet of Giriraj Govardhan. And then our pujaris, they offer very nicely, and finally with tulsi to Giriraj. And then Gurudev would sit and give very beautiful, sweet Harikatha right at that place. And then we would carry all those preparations back to the temple, and then we would feed everyone in the area around the Giridhari Gaudiya Math. So many thousands and thousands of people would come in all day long, from the perhaps about midday, 12:30, through till about 5 o'clock. We would just be feeding all the hungry residents of Govardhan. So this festival we perform with great happiness and great joy today. So now, that's it. So now we've celebrated Govardhana Puja, we've celebrated Gopastami, we've talked about the annakuta, and we've talked about decorating the cows, and we've talked also about Rasikananda, whose appearance day we're also celebrating today. So I'd just like to make a footnote here to these recordings that if any of the devotees who are listening to these recordings feel that they would also like to add some audio amongst these recordings, they're most welcome to speak any of the Leela pastimes, and they can just email me the recording and I can splice it into this recording that's going out to everyone. There's about 150 devotees on this thread now listening, so if there are other devotees listening who would also like to offer some type of description of some Leela or some remembrance of Srila Gurudev during these wonderful Parikrama days, please don't hesitate to put it into an audio and send it to me, and then all of the devotees can hear that. So it doesn't just have to be me speaking these things, others can also participate, and I'm just opening that door for anyone who would like to do that. So thank you very much. I'm taking the dust of Giriraj Govardhan today, and Radha Vinod Bihari Ju, and Sachinandana Gaurahari, and Srila Gurudev, of course, and all our beloved Guru Vargya, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, and all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat pranams. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhavevacha patitanam pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namaha.
Always remember this song. Always. Bhaktivinoda Thakur chale, ei sab chodat paran hai aparan. So if that idea will be in any bhakta, then he can achieve all this. So try to, if you cannot be Radha Kund, Shyam Kund, Giriraj, Govardhan, oh, so many Kunj and Radha Kund, so many Kunj Kutir, then be anywhere where you are, but always remember. And those who are most fortunate, all they will be. Maybe we are going to all places, but that transcendental Swarup, we cannot see, but only imagination, like they have told. Radha Kund we see, that is not Radha Kund really. Oh, so many, Lalita, Visakha, Kunja, oh, there are thousands and billions of Kunja everywhere, where Radha Krishna always, what, doing Bihar there. But we cannot. Still, Raghunath Das Goswami is telling still, they are realizing. They are seeing vividly, but we are not. One day, by the wish of Krishna, if you practice in proper way, it will be visible to you